Unit 7. Noise in Everyday Life. This guide has been written for people who think their hearing might be at risk because of excessive noise in their daily lives and covers the following topics. How do we hear? How does noise damage hearing? How loud is too loud? How can leisure activities damage hearing? How can hearing loss be prevented?
How do we hear?
Sounds reach our ears as sound waves. As the sound waves move through the ear canal, the eardrum vibrates. This in turn causes the three little bones of the middle ear to move backward and forward and amplify the vibrations as they pass into the cochlea inside the inner ear. Special sensory cells in the cochlea, known as hair cells, detect the vibrations and convert them to electrical signals that are sent through the auditory nerve to the brain so that we can hear.
How does noise damage hearing?
Repeated exposure to excessive noise can kill hair cells in the ear and damage the hearing nerves, making them unable to work properly and resulting in partial and sometimes even permanent hearing loss. Someone with noise-induced hearing loss will first notice difficulty hearing some words. For example, you may be watching a TV program and be able to hear that the characters are talking, but what they are saying will be hard to understand. Damage to hearing can be divided into two types. First, there is the gradual loss of hearing from repeated exposure to loud noise. A screeching train, a noisy office, listening to an MP3 player, or frequently going to loud concerts. At first, any hearing loss is temporary. However, if the exposure continues, the hearing loss becomes permanent and irreversible. Second, there is the more extreme acoustic trauma, which is an immediate loss of hearing after a sudden, exceptionally loud noise, such as an explosion.
How loud is too loud?
Noise is measured in decibels, dBA. An increase of 3 decibels represents a doubling of intensity, the energy it contains. So, for example, 73 decibels is twice as intense as 70 decibels. However, due to the way we hear sounds, a person with normal hearing will only think a sound has doubled in loudness when it is 10 times more intense. An average conversation will reach around 60 decibels, while a busy street can peak at 80 to 90 decibels. Generally, exposure to sound levels below 80 decibels is unlikely to cause hearing damage. Prolonged exposure to sounds over 80 decibels, however, can damage your hearing, and the risk increases as the sound level increases. At 140 decibels, noise causes immediate injury to almost any unprotected ear. As a general guide, if you have to shout to make yourself heard by someone 2 meters away, the noise level could be dangerous.
How can leisure activities damage hearing?
Regular exposure to sound levels over 80 decibels is sufficient to cause tinnitus, ringing in the ears. At pop concerts, levels can reach well over 110 decibels, and even classical concerts can go over 100 decibels. For many, tinnitus will be the first sign of damage. Research shows that around 70 to 80% of regular nightclub visitors will experience tinnitus at least temporarily. Loud music from personal music players is also a concern. As a rule, if other people can hear the sound from a personal music player, it is too loud. Remember, don't increase the volume to drown out background noise, such as a train or traffic. It is not just music lovers who are at risk. There is also a danger of noise-induced hearing loss from such pastimes as riding a motorcycle. Some motorcycles can reach levels of over 100 decibels, which is as loud as a jackhammer. There is also an increase in the noise levels experienced at the cinema. The 1998 film Godzilla peaked at a level of 118 decibels, and the trend seems set to continue.
How can hearing loss be prevented?
In order to minimize damage from extreme noise, use earplugs. If worn correctly, earplugs can reduce sound levels by between 15 to 35 decibels. Take regular breaks from noise. Aim for at least a 10-minute break every hour. Give your ears time to recover after exposure to excessive noise. Exposure to a 100 decibel sound for around 2 hours requires at least 16 hours of rest for the ears. Don't go to noisy places too often, and try less noisy pastimes.